Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so sorry that we're a little bit late. We are actually more people than what my plan allows, so I had to go upgrade us in settings. Isn't that wonderful? I'm going to add Vanessa quickly. Jane and Celeste is going to welcome you all, and I will see you all in a bit again.
Thanks, Jen. And that's why it is wonderful to have somebody handling the technical side. So Celeste and Vanessa and I are very grateful to Jennifer and to Crowdcast for being able to enable the technical support so that we can be able to speak and you guys can all chat to us. And so thank you, Jen, once again. So welcome, everybody. We are super excited about today. We really loved our last webinar with you, and we were glad to hear that you really enjoyed it too. And last time you requested that we have a sales and marketing approach. So that's what we've done today. We're focusing on 3 questions. So we'll all be answering all of them, and we're wanting you to please add your expertise in the chat box as well. So while we go through it, we're going to be looking at what services you've been able to offer over the past month that your clients have been willing to pay for. We'll look at, with your situation in lockdown, how have you gone about increasing your sales activities? And then we'll end off with the question that people are asking, how can I demonstrate my value to my organization? So those are the 3 questions that we'll be asking. So Vanessa will be kicking us off just now. And welcome back, Vanessa.
Thank you. I thought I'd got like a pink ticket or something. I was enjoying watching you ladies.
We saw you very busy in the chat box. So it's nice to have your face with us again.
Oh, good to be here as always.
So as you probably well know, we're all in situations that we're not perhaps normally in. We're in a new normal. So we'll all be telling you what we normally do during this time. And then we'll be jumping in. And we really do want to ask you, there's a poll, there's questions, there's a chat box. Please do add in your comments. We know there's a wealth of energy and expertise in our virtual meeting. And so we don't want to be the only ones who share. We know there's so much that everybody can be sharing.
Absolutely.
So when I am not doing free webinars, I am normally training companies and recruitment consultancies, mainly around interview skills, but also around recruitment. And we also train people globally around coaching, and we train people to be coaches and to have coaching skills. So that's where I normally am. Love the recruitment industry, as everyone does who's here today, I'm sure. And I know it feels like there's a lot of us, but often there are a lot of people who don't love it. So I'm really glad to be able to love it. But handing over to Celeste, I'll let Celeste introduce herself, and then Vanessa will introduce herself and kick us off with our first question.
All good.
Super. Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Thanks, Jane. Yeah. So who am I? I am sitting in the middle of these 2 wonderful co-hosts, and with my answer to the question that we're going to pose, it's all about collaborating, and it's about really reaching out to the people in the industry players that are like-minded. My focus area is branding. It's employer branding, it's personal branding. Running employer branding South Africa. Love it, sleep it, read it, eat it, whatever. And attending a lot of interest. Not drink it, times are hard. No. But interesting insights I've been seeing happening overseas and on the globe. No one really has the answer. It's a moving target at the moment. And the good, the bad, and the ugly in terms of the likes of Airbnb and another example, Bird, in how leaders and CEOs are handling the whole communication strategy within the EB space at the moment. So I'm finding it very interesting, and I'm hoping to continue bringing those insights to the forefront into our, South African and African market. So thank you. I'm looking forward to today's session. And over to Van.
Hey everyone, how are you doing? I'm so glad that I could make the chat. It was touch and go there for a bit at the beginning, thanks to my co-hosts. But thanks to Jen for helping with the technical side, and always good to spend time with you, Jade and Celeste. So my focus is definitely sourcing, and it has been 2 weeks since our last webinar, and I pretty much can stand in front of you now and almost change my whole service offering because I've had to change and adapt. But my core focus is sourcing. I still work with a lot of international and global companies and moving talent all around the world, which is great. It's good fun. And I also do a lot of sourcing training. So at the moment, I'm loving the opportunities which are being presented to me because my markets have just expanded. Everyone's used to learning online and everyone's willing to embrace it. So I've had some late nights training to stateside. But it's my task today, and when you get one task, you don't want to mess it up, to kind of ask the first question to my co-hosts. So the questions which we're going to be looking at is, to start us off, is what services have you been able to offer over the past month that your clients have been willing to pay for? So pretty much, have you had to pivot? Have you had to change? Or are you still offering the same services or products or whatever it may be that you were before the lockdown period happened? We're interested to hear about what you are doing to stay afloat, because I think we've all had to change, we've all had to adapt, and I look forward to sharing with you, what I've had to do. So let's kick it off and start with Celeste. What have you had to do?
Yes, thanks very much. I don't have all the answers, by no means. So I'll be a liar if I start sucking things out of my thumb here. But all in all, I think the big shift has been very much towards online. And, I had a lot of in-person training set up. People were ready to take part in exploring the employer branding roadmap and training and everything. And that unfortunately was scrapped because of social distancing. So I've had to basically honor that and move it into the online space. And it's really been quite a shift for people because some people aren't comfortable with it. They like the feely, touchy type of thing. But sometimes your clients don't think this way, and you have to actually plant that seed and say, listen, why wait? Today is the perfect opportunity to start training. Let's capitalize on this downtime. So I've had to put my creative hat on a little bit. And also work in almost like an advisory consulting sort of way to, again, bring the insights to the forefront and say, listen, this is what people are doing successfully all around the world. Have you ever thought of this or that or whatever? So in terms of my service offering, it's very much around having meetings online and keeping the conversations going, really. Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Celeste. Yeah, and I love what you're saying about the online. I think we can all resonate with that. And I love what you're saying about that a lot of people aren't ready for this. And so you've almost got to plant that seed in people's minds and help them understand that they can do this. Yeah. I think for myself, as I shared last time, a lot of people might be wanting training, but they're feeling so overwhelmed at home or with remote work at the moment that it's very difficult for them to conceptualize doing something else. And so I think people, I would say they've come further than about 2 weeks ago. There was a new starter in recruitment who I was able to have an online session with, and that was exciting. And I think another interesting situation where somebody wants me to coach and train is an internal talent acquisition specialist who has been doing fairly well up until now. But in order for her to continue to add value, she's got to add some new skills and new attributes to her toolbox. So it's not just about training people on the skills they've always needed, but I think where I'm seeing people being willing to pay is for people to say, okay, these are skills I'm going to need for the future. Can you train me on those? Now, this isn't completely to fruition yet. I think it's something that's slowly coming along. I think our coaching, as I say, continues because people in Europe and the US and the UK, they're used to working remotely and from home. So that hasn't, we haven't seen a ripple there. I think it's mostly within South Africa. So that's been my experience from a training and coaching perspective. I think speaking to different recruiters, whether they are internal or external, I've seen areas where they've been, people have been willing to pay them has actually been in recruitment for some of them, but the industry has been financial services. So I know of someone who's just kind of got an overload of work around private equity, credits, investments. So that type of recruitment specifically. And then around IT, I've seen a lot of the recruitment consultancies around IT also continuing and also being busy. I've seen internal and external consultants being paid for talent mapping. So again, not just for roles that could have been open now and aren't anymore, but ones that will open up in the future, or for areas of the business that are going to need to be built in order for that business to carry on being productive and making profit. So I think there's talent mapping in those areas. And I think another area I've seen is assessments and career mapping. So for internal recruitment consultants, maybe they're not filling new roles, but they are partnering with people in the business to be able to say, okay, where are you at now? Where do you want to get to? Or where do we need you to get to? What are the gaps? Let's look at your assessment from a developmental point of view, not just on the recruitment side. So those are the areas that I've been seeing, Vanessa. Thank you. And back to you.
Very, very good answer. So for me, I've actually had a bit of a tough week, because what I've been seeing is a lot of people who've been laid off in the recruitment sector, and it's happening to internal recruiters and agency recruiters. So for me, I've maybe seen a little bit of the negative side. So I'm very glad that I have managed to chat to some people this morning. So to those of you who are on the chat who have got emails from me this morning, first of all, a big shout out and a big thank you. So what I did yesterday, which was probably not the smartest move, was I had chatted to 4 recruiters in a 24-hour period who had all been laid off. And I figured that, let me see if I can just send these candidates in the right direction, like who's hiring. And what I found today is very refreshing. I've actually got 6 companies that are looking to grow their talent acquisition teams and have opportunities. So for me, that shows a sign that the economy is improving, that things are picking up. And just to share with you, the industries that they're working in, no surprise that healthcare is one of them, logistics, anyone that's helping in the food, FMCG kind of area is one of them. Tech, always a focus for people at the moment. So I think that the people who are focused on the right industries are getting back up and running very quickly. It really is a fantastic sign. But for me, the concern still lies where there's a lot of people who have been laid off who aren't working currently. So what I'm trying to do is just, I feel like I've fallen back into rec-to-rec recruitment. Well, not fallen back into it because I've never done it, but I just really want to help some people. So if you do have any opportunities, please get in touch with me after this webinar. But I think also a massive change that I've seen, and I've chatted to a lot of vendors this week, is people who have pivoted in HR tech. I've chatted to 2 companies now who are now offering their services of video interviews. And I think that, these people were actually recruitment agencies. And what they're doing is that they, transferring their skills. So instead of saying, well, okay, all of our clients aren't hiring, we're just going to sit back and chill. They've actually partnered with companies that are overseas companies. And they're offering video recruiting platforms, which I think is going to become more and more popular. So it's good to see that people are staying agile enough to make the changes. But I'd like to see, from you, what have you people done who are on the chat in order to change and keep up? And as I say, I was even on a call with the president of APSO, Jackie Ford, this morning, discussing some training and those kind of things. And even though, there wasn't too much positivity coming out of the agency side of the market, there were still pockets of people who were not affected. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom.
Well, what I've been seeing on our chat line is the following. I'm going to quote a couple of people. So Tarshan, looking at contracting skills and the benefits for business during these uncertain times. Okay. And then LZ mentioned that social media marketing hasn't really slowed down for her, but some of her clients are sitting with awesome candidates and nowhere to place them. So she's been assisting them to find new roles and market their candidates too. Market their candidates too. Yes. I've been helping senior levels candidates with their CVs and LinkedIn profiles and training them in new ways to job search. That's a very good way. Also, Tarshan said, looking at the specific industries that you mentioned, Van, some staffing businesses, says Jackie, that operate in the TES space, in TES, healthcare, logistics, food industries have good returns. 6 companies hiring, says Kira.
Cool.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Another thing to our audience, Andrea says, for me, we've continued to work with our usual work, one new client, one existing, that have kept us pretty busy. So slower, but what an amazing job. Yeah.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so I also want to tell our audience that we've got our poll up that we're going to tell you a little bit more about in our next section. And if you don't mind voting while we're talking, then we can tell you what the results is at the end of our next section. That's over to you, ladies, again.
So one thing that I also just wanted to comment on that I hadn't mentioned was that I was actually approached by a colleague of mine who is looking for someone to assist with almost like a screening process. So, not your typical what you would do as a recruitment agency, your full 360 recruitment. But what's happening is that they're using sources in India that are shortlisting candidates, putting them onto an Excel spreadsheet. Then they're handing them to the client, which is a US-based client, which is involved in logistics over there, and they're conducting the interviews. But what the client is finding at the moment is that they're doing the interviews, but the rate of which people leaving on the other side, the attrition is very high. They're not even making it through 90 days. So what they're looking for is they're looking for a middleman. They're looking for people who can do the screening part. So take the list that are coming from the sources in India, do the screening and try and see if that improves their processes and whether they can retain the staff for longer. So, it's not something that I would normally do. I mean, it's offering a screening service, but it's something that's US dollar based and it sounds very interesting. So I think that we all need to be quite receptive and open to doing different things. So absolutely. I see Vicky's also commented that she's also offering a screening service. And I think that that's something that could be quite lucrative.
Absolutely agree with you. Okay, so that's me out. I'll see you all in a little bit.
Okay.
Thanks, Jenny. So Celeste, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Very. It was quite an informative point there. So due to the fact, my question now to you ladies, and maybe you can give some insight, Van and Jane, before we open it up in the chat box. Due to the fact that in-person is completely banned at the moment and we're not having face-to-face meetings, I'd be interested to know, how have you gone about maintaining or increasing your sales, the activities, projecting your business development plans and that? How have you reinvented them during the lockdown? What are you actually doing to maintain those conversations and keep them going? And over and above innovating what we've just spoken about, how have you kept those channels of communication going with a view to actually possibly converting some form of sales? Over to you, Van.
Cool. So very interesting. I was thinking about that because I sat down on Monday and my plan was, okay, business development. I want to bring in some more training. Let me see what I can do. So for me, what I've tried to do is I've tried to stay top of mind from social media. You'll see that I've been very active, those of you who are in my networks, especially on LinkedIn. I think I've also, I know that I was talking about the post that I did yesterday offering to help recruiters, but off the back of that, I think I've added 50 new connections within the last 24 hours. And I think that if you're posting things that are adding value and posting things where you're not asking people for anything in return, but you're adding value at such a tough time, I always go back to what I said in our first webinar, which is that during these tough times, people are going to remember the way that you made them feel. So I think if you're in a position to help, then do it. Like for myself, assisting the recruiters, hiring companies, all I'm doing is asking for introductions. I'm not asking for payment. Because I would rather be doing that than trying to undersell myself, sell my training at a much cheaper rate, which for me, my training hasn't changed. My training is still as much work as what I've put into it. I was even updating my training this morning. So I feel that it's better for me to actually just sit back and say, things are all right, things are fine. Let me see what I can actually do for others. And I think that that's really gone a long way. I've had a lot of really interesting conversations with people locally and internationally over the last week and weeks of lockdown. And I think just growing my network is going to be something that is gold in the future. And that's all been via social media. So I haven't really thought of it from a sales perspective, but I have just focused because I come from a pure networking, relationship building background. Jane, back to you.
Awesome. Love that, Vanessa. And as I always say to Vanessa, Vanessa, you've just got such a natural talent around posting things. I feel like almost every time I see her, if Vanessa posts something, I look at it and I'm like, wow, that was really clever. She does things like she has this ability to take something that could be mundane and make it sound fresh and engaging. So I love that,
Thank you,
Vanessa.
Jane. I appreciate
I really
that.
try and learn all I can from your posts. And yeah, so I think I resonate with what Vanessa is saying in terms of I just naturally am passionate about connecting with people. So I love that side of lockdown. I was actually I joined a club with some people in Europe and in India this morning, and we just had a coffee together. And we just said, this is amazing that we wouldn't be making the time to do this if it wasn't for lockdown and wasn't for this pandemic. And I think for me, I'm just enjoying spreading that net wide in terms of connecting with as many people as I can. Not just from, as Vanessa says, who I feel like I want to connect with, but in terms of who can I add value to? Who can I help during this time? I think, all of us have gained so much from many other people, and so many people have poured their knowledge and skills into us to develop, and it's a wonderful opportunity to give back in that way. So it's enjoyable. I think the recruitment industry is full of people who love connecting. So I don't think any of us would have a problem with that. I think all of us would love it. So I think that's something that, I can back up and resonate with. I think along the social media lines, I've also enjoyed learning more about how to connect with people on social media. And there were some amazing nuggets that I picked up at the Recruiting Brain Food webinar about a week or two ago. And they spoke about LinkedIn. And there were a couple of things that I learned there in terms of boosting your LinkedIn posts and being able to get more views and connect with more people. So a couple of things I'll share with you, what they shared on the webinar that I didn't know, is number one, that LinkedIn likes comments. It doesn't really, the algorithms don't really care much for the likes or the loves or they want comment. They're a sticky platform. They want you to stay there. So you want to generate comments on your posts. You want to comment on other people's posts because, as Victoria Rush said, there's a sense of reciprocity. When you give freely, other people also want to give freely. And something interesting that they also said LinkedIn doesn't put out there, but they said if you message people privately, then they are more likely to see your posts and connect with you and see what you post on LinkedIn. So I thought those are interesting. Things I didn't know before that I've started to do. And something I saw that Vanessa does really well is she'll make a post. She did a post and then she commented under the post. And I think that's an amazing way of just getting that post going and giving it some traction already. So I love those points. The global, the social media, the reciprocity. And I love what everyone is saying in the chat box. Kylie, love that you're also saying you've reinvented yourself during this time. Love the point about being agile. So I think Celeste, that's mostly what it's been for me, connecting via LinkedIn and then also Zoom, of course, Teams, yes. WhatsApp.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, Van. Thanks. Did you want to say something, Vanessa? You wanted to say something?
I was actually just typing it in, but it's going to be easier just to explain it. The reason that I'm often the first person to comment on my posts is because if you're posting that's got a link, something that's got a link. So, for example, this webinar today, when I posted it, there's a link to go and register. LinkedIn doesn't like it when you are trying to send activity away from the from LinkedIn. So I will always say sign up, link in the first comment, because then it doesn't pick it up as being part of the post. It was just another tip that I heard.
Okay, that's a brilliant tip. Thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Okay, wonderful. So just adding on to that, I think That's wonderful in terms of social media, LinkedIn activity, etc. But I think another thing is also really about taking topics that are relevant to our market. So a lot is happening outside in the global spectrum and that, but you might be dealing with a client at this point in time where there might be a case study that is relevant to their industry sector, an industry sector that possibly is booming, whether it be logistics or retail or whatever. And actually feeding that information from a sort of advisory consultative perspective and actually giving that to your client as golden nuggets and saying, listen, this case study actually worked pretty well overseas. I know we're in a different market, but possibly why not apply this kind of thinking? So there again, you are giving that information. Also the fact that there are trends towards remote and flexible and contract. So what is happening in that space? Also mobility internally within organizations, having discussions around that, opening up those discussions on how you can possibly assist in possibly doing screening and from an unbiased perspective, assist with the internal screening and interviewing just to take that bias out. So going in and partnering in the real sense, as we always say, you know, working as an advisor, working as a partner. And then the other thing is, as Van and Jane said, the other thing is increasing that network, increasing and connecting with people on webinars as well. I've been listening to a lot of webinars on that, and interesting subject matter specialists, and bringing them closer to you, because they also, you know, they provide a wealth of information. Take that information. If you've got a client that's possibly got a crisis or something and it's aligned to their business, see if you can ask them for some assistance in that regard. So personalizing that sale almost from a consultative advisory perspective. The other thing is also collaborating and networking with partners, industry partners. You know, we're all in this industry together. Someone might be in technology, the other person might be in sourcing, the other person might be in something else. Possibly having a look at collectively going to a client with a solution and leveraging off each other's strengths, which is something that we've always been very siloed in our industry. Let's start working closer together in having a look at how we can actually assist that client from a collective perspective. And then also asking questions. What if? Why not? Have you thought of this? Can you not make it work? You know, they're in the thick of ops and that. Seeing if you can possibly bring that creativity into their organization as well, because they might not have thought of something. So be the solutions provider in the real sense.
Awesome.
I really love, I really love what you said there, Celeste. Working together, collaborating together like we are doing today and with all our viewers is absolutely a fantastic value add to me in my life. So I can imagine that it would be to everybody else joining us today. It really does feel like a community that we are making here and that we are sharing solutions with each other. So based on that, we've got some wonderful questions Nicole asked. Let's discuss the elephant in recruitment. Should agencies consider lowering their fees for clients right now? If no, what would be a good justification for clients to still pay us our normal rates? We've got 2 comments there. Chantal says she has offered her clients a 3-month payment plan just to ease their cash flow. That's nice. And Jackie said, I believe that there are opportunities to look at fee models, not necessarily in terms of lowering them, but to restructure them to tailor to your value proposition and service offering to clients. What do you ladies think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that anyone should be lowering their fees at the moment, in all honesty, because I think it's just going to, you know, the recruitment industry will just bottom out. I don't think that that's going to be fair to yourself, to anyone or anything like that. It's like myself. I'd rather not train than cut my prices, because you're still adding the same service, you're still adding the same value. I would look at maybe really, and I mean this figuratively, getting into bed with your clients or whoever it may be, and saying, let's make this into a real partnership. Can we maybe look at some kind of a retainer? We are in this for the long term. I love Chantal's idea of being flexible and offering a 3-month payment plan. We do understand that these are tough times, and I'm not saying we mustn't be inflexible.
We've lost Van there.
Okay, but yeah, I think what she was saying is true, and it echoes what Chantal was saying and what Jackie was saying in terms of don't lower the fees. I also agree with that. Rather the payment plan, and rather look at a model where you can, arrange a different type of payment plan. Celeste, you wanted to say?
Yeah, I agree with you fully. I mean, you don't have to look very far to see what your banks are doing, what your insurance companies are doing, what your medical aid companies are doing, and that they all, SARS, for example, the tax benefits to the small to medium enterprises, giving them a little bit of slack and everything. So if that's the model that they are using, and it seems to be, it seems to be a good way of going to market. I think it's give and take at the end of the day. I don't think, as Van says, you don't compromise your service. If anything, you turn the volume up there and say, come, let me figuratively get into bed with you and let's make this happen, because those are what long-term relationships are all about. That's where your business comes into play. Look after them while they're going through the thick. And so, I strongly believe no payment, just, make a workable solution.
Chantal, I like how you worded it there, saying rather flexibility over lowering the fees, because as you say, some are already on a discounted fee. And what I've heard most consultants say is if they lower their fees now, how are they going to push them up again afterwards? So, Leslie, I hear you. Don't compromise with you on that.
Okay, so our second question was, is LinkedIn the primary social media tool that you used? LZ answered there and said, LinkedIn is great, but with Facebook, you can specifically target the person you want to reach with paid for advertising. Twitter is great for recruitment if you use the right hashtags. Instagram is great for video and photos. Your content must always be relevant to your followers because they will engage, and the more they engage, the more your posts will be shown in news feeds.
So can I hook into that? Can I hook into that there? LZ, I think we aligned in our thinking there. Now, my thinking is that there's a way of creating personas, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard about personas. That's basically profiling. Usually it's the other way around, where you profile the candidate in order to find the right match, not only in culture, skills, and experience and qualifications, but do the same. I'm saying if you're used to targeting your candidates by way of pulling together profiles or personas, as they call it, there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing the same when it comes to profiling your typical client, to try and engage with them. So that targeted approach, I agree with LZ 100%. I think it is about segmenting and targeting. Hi, Van. You're back again.
Hey, I'm back. I don't know what happened. It's been happening for like 2 days now. I'm not too sure. But I'm just reading all of the comments. It looks like everyone's on the same page. So yeah. All good. No one dropped fees.
No.
Yeah, I like, Nicole, that you said everyone needs to stick together on this. I think it'll be very difficult if some compromise and some don't. So good call. Lawrence, I noticed that you asked about whether internal recruitment teams, whether companies won't consider, letting them go and replacing. I have heard talk about that. Not necessarily that they're going to let them go. They might redeploy them elsewhere. But there is a definite heightened tension between, okay, who's going to be more effective going forward? You as our internal team or the external people that we've been outsourcing to?
Yep.
So there's an opportunity for the internal recruiters to really show how they add value, which is part of what we'll be talking about in our next question. But there is an opportunity for external recruiters to really show how they would add value. So, is that
Absolutely.
And I think maybe it also comes to variable costs now. Companies are looking at, sadly, cutting down, their permanent staff and that to a certain degree. So, if you have got a value add, instead of them reassigning a new body, and you are able to offer that from an outsourced perspective, they could possibly be looking at you. But again, you have to move with the times. Is it possibly remote workers, or is it temporary that you're looking at recruiting? Because that's the route they might do. They might want to go that route as opposed to permanent placements in the short term again.
So, Celeste, do you want to continue then? Because our third question, just with a half an eye on the time there, our third question is around what are people going to be doing now and in the future in terms of the question that's in all the chat boxes. How can I demonstrate my value add to my organization, whether it's a current employer or whether it's as an external provider? So do you want to continue with that train of thought then in terms of, your view and perspectives on that?
Okay, well, I think we're chasing a moving target, let's face it. No one's got the answers. I think everyone is fumbling around at this point in time, but I think at the same time, we're all getting impatient in wanting to look at post-COVID. I mean, that's my personality. I'm saying, okay, we have to live with what we have. How do we actually make it work now and beyond? What are the ideas? What are we doing? So I think a lot of good, valuable ideas have come through. But again, I'm saying to you, keep watching the news, keep watching research that's coming through. There is a wealth of information. I could be permanently busy just sitting on webinars the whole week because everyone is providing so much free evidence and information and ways of reinventing themselves. So with all the dismal layoffs and everything, whether it be Uber and Airbnb and all of those case studies, I think we need to also capitalize on the fact that you're going to miss the boat if you're not keeping your ear to the ground when it comes to listening to what organizations are doing to reinvent their models, because them reinventing their business model will give you the perfect opportunity to plug in where the value add is in terms of what they are needing. If you do not keep your ear to the ground, you're going to miss the boat and someone's going to pip you to the post. So I cannot emphasize the fact that if you want to shift gears into this new world of work, keep your ear close to the ground. Keep watching those movements all the time. That is where you will see the gaps. And I can't emphasize that enough. I've seen how it's worked in the past with me building businesses. Listen to the target market. Listen to your audience. Listen to your customers.
Great point.
Me. Yeah.
Van, your thoughts? Love that, Celeste. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree. Yeah. I think that's really good. And I think that we can learn so much from other people. I've actually got a list of webinars. I'm looking at putting aside 2 days next week just to sit and watch and learn from all of the experts out there. But I just wanted to comment on that from, like something that's quite tangible, that what recruiters could be doing is that I think that recruiters, you need to be looking at doing some talent mapping or doing some research on your chosen area. So as you all know, I'm a big fan of one and all clients. So whether that is in a vertical or an industry or whatever you want to call it, but get to know that community as well as possible. So if it's the tech industry, it could be a certain, tech stack that you're looking at. Learn as much as possible about that tech stack. Watch some YouTube videos. Connect with key players in the market. Who's presenting at the conferences? Who's running community nights? Connect with them now. Because people don't mind if you connect with them if you don't have a role for them. If you go with the kind of approach, a little bit of hat in hand, saying, I'm connecting with you because this is the industry that I work in, I'd like to learn more. Could you assist me with that? And just by linking up with me or connecting with me on whatever platform it may be, I can learn through your posts. So I think that we need to also then have something to offer back to the business. So, if you're sitting either an agency or in an internal team, go and map the market. Who's doing what? Who's got the biggest, say, for example, Java developer team? I've been doing a lot of research around that because I work a lot in that space. I can tell you categorically that FNB employs the most Java developers in the country at the moment. So it's those kind of things that if you have that knowledge, and remember to keep sharing this with your boss, because they don't know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could send them an email at the end of the day and say to them, this is what I found out today. These are the top 3 employees of Java in the country. I've started to connect with these people, even though I don't have anything for them right now. What I'm working on is expanding my markets and my network. And I think that it's always good to keep communicating, because people don't know what you are doing. And if you don't tell them, then they don't know. So stay top of mind and show them all of the things that you are doing that are not generally your, should I say, focus area, but you are showing that you're using your time in a valuable way.
Love
Jane,
that.
over to you.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Celeste.
And I love what both of you are saying around you've got to be able to communicate your value, as Vanessa said.
So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yes, I think, as you say, being able to communicate your value.
You've got to keep people. You've got to keep people in with what you're doing. Don't just assume people know.
Yes, so you've got to be able to communicate your value, not
Absolutely.
just something.
I completely agree with that.
And I think, as Celeste said, you've got to be able to communicate your value, not just generally, but you want to be able to listen and have your ear to the ground around what the needs are in your target market or potential target market and articulate them there. So for me, in that question, how can I demonstrate my value to my organization? There are 2 very distinct, important parts to that question. And one is, what is my value? So I speak to a lot of clients, whether they're internal or external recruiters or managers, and they have a sense that they love what they do, and they have a sense of what they give and can give or would like to give. But where they're struggling is how to articulate that. And I think that's a piece of work that I've been helping people with, and that I found I absolutely just love in terms of where I'd like to do more of it, is helping people identify and articulate their value add. Because it's whether it's in social media, in that about section on LinkedIn, whether it's in a post, whether it's in conversation, it's so important that you can say that succinctly so that people get what you're saying. And I think the second part is my value. So what is my value? I think a lot of us, we need to be able to identify what our strengths are outside of our job title. My husband, being a coach, had an amazing session with somebody yesterday, and he really was just seeing how he needs to reinvent himself because he doesn't really have work going forward. And they had a great conversation around, don't think of yourself in terms of your job title. So don't see yourself as, I'm an engineer or I'm a recruiter, because that limits your thinking. But rather list your skills and your strengths outside of that and say, okay, if I pull that out, who needs those skills, or who can benefit from those strengths? So that I think, as a few people were saying, offering things, like Tanya said, offer things in bite-sized chunks. You can then use your skills and your strengths to offer to clients and potential clients in bite-sized chunks. So I think that's one thing that's I'm really seeing working well. And I think where it works well as well is the design thinking coaching sessions that I think most people know that we're offering, and we've been offering free to people, is to say, okay, this is where you're at now. How can you reinvent yourself, or how can you articulate your value add so that you either stay relevant or become relevant in wherever you're wanting to go? So I think that's key. Another thing is, I think, along the lines of what Vanessa and what Celeste are saying, is keep learning. I loved it. There was a woman in India this morning, and she said she's found herself a mentor over this time, and someone else has found themselves a coach. And I mean, there's a difference between the mentoring and the coaching. So the mentor is someone, an expert in your field, who can guide you, advise you, tell you what to do. Whereas the coach doesn't have to be an expert in your field. They ask you questions to help you find your own solutions. So she has found both, and as a result of that, she's really growing, and she's enrolled in some courses, but she needed that mentorship for someone more of an expert than her to say, here's where you should enroll, or this is what you should learn. So I think there are countless opportunities, and I can see that people are busy in the chat box, and so many people have got so many ideas. So maybe we can hand over to you, Jennifer, and just see what people are saying and what questions they have at this stage. Okay, maybe Jennifer.
Ooh, the internet today. Okay, so first of all,
tell me about it.
Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to give everyone an idea of what our poll results are. The question was, which channels have you found to have the highest success rate when you're doing sales and business development? Personalized mailer got 5 votes. Email got 1 vote. Social media, Facebook got 1 vote. Social media, LinkedIn got 16 votes. That's 41%. Social media, Twitter got 0 votes. Social media, WhatsApp got 0 votes. Other got 1 vote. And 4 votes to one I added, Celeste. I am not doing business development right now.
Okay,
yes.
Interesting.
So those of you who said, I'm not doing business development right now, start today. Start today.
Yeah.
It's never too late. Then we have one last question number 3 that we didn't answer earlier on. It said, in terms of BBBEE, for small agencies, consultants, freelancers who don't have a good rating, what is a good justification to override this, to use us regardless? The niche and specialization and having the right candidate isn't enough anymore. Anybody got some advice on that one?
Sure. Is there anyone that you could partner with? I found that there's actually been a lot of people out there that I have in my network who are willing to partner just to go in under their brand, and they're actually not even looking for payment. So I would maybe try and look at a couple of partnerships. If you know anyone who owns their own business out there, it's sometimes just a good idea to approach them. I've done it once or twice when I've trained at one of our corporates who were incredibly sticky. Yeah.
I think what you just have to make sure of in those situations,
that's a good idea.
That company already has what you might offer as part of their offering. Otherwise, you can. So from a legal perspective, you have to be careful about that. So just make sure you do your research properly in terms of who you partner with. But I know we all love the idea of partnering, and super helpful. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ryan actually gave a very good, I'm just trying to find it now, just a seckie. He said you can get a level 4 BEE rating if you are a micro enterprise, and that's true. I have it as well. And your turnover has to be under 5 million per annum. So you just have to go through the process with somebody who knows. Again, as a small business or as a person who works by themselves, working in collaboration and partnerships with other people gives you scope and access to business development, sales opportunities that you wouldn't have if you were just on your own.
Yeah.
I think so many more of us are open to collaboration, and we're seeing that kind of collaboration over competition hashtag. So I think within the recruitment industry itself, there should be ample opportunity to collaborate and partner with somebody, for various reasons. So.
And there's a lot of small businesses out there who, I kind of just swap like an hour's worth of coaching or discussion around some, their social media presence or something as a thank you, and kind of call it a day, over a lunch. So you just need to find someone that that you do trust in this kind of setup, which is the important factor.
Yeah,
I think Van, what you've mentioned there, I'm just thinking my creative juices going. What about the barter? What about the barter system? What about
like
the
a trade swap?
What about a trade swap barter analogy as well? Because
absolutely.
I think we mustn't lose sight that, while there's not a hell of a lot of money exchanging hands and cash flow, is that not a consideration? I mean, is that not a consideration to start giving it in the form of skills or training or knowledge or whatever, as opposed to cash exchange?
Yeah, I love
absolutely.
that idea. And I think Recruiting Brain Food has also been working around. So I wasn't sure if you were still speaking, Celeste. I think Recruiting Brain Food has been working around that topic. And I was thinking about that today as well. I mean, we've already, in the past done trade swaps with some of our friends. For example, one's a photographer and we, offer coaching or whatever. So great idea. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Absolutely. So anyone got any closing comments, looking at we've 5 minutes to go, and I think by the looks of things, just everyone's internet connections are just going to hold enough for us to finish this webinar.
Yeah.
So it looks like a lot of people have had issues.
Yeah, but a lot of people are also saying that they are collaborating and going into partnerships and wanting to go into partnerships. So I absolutely believe that we should definitely be making some kind of, somebody needs to take ownership of collaborations, maybe in a group or something like that, so that people who can collaborate with each other can communicate with each other like that. I don't know who yet, but it's something that we'll definitely work on. Perhaps we can work on that through Touchbase, which is a collaboration platform that Jane and I started. You can join us on Facebook or we can invite you if you want to, and we can see where we can take it from there, if it's that fine with you, Jane.
Sure.
Celeste, Van?
Yeah.
You're happy with Touchbase? So if you want to collaborate, join Touchbase on Facebook, and then we'll see what collaboration we can get going between all of us, see which skills we can do. Okay, yes. Okay, I'm going to share that link quickly while everybody speaks.
So I know we're trying to keep it within an hour. So if anyone has any last questions, please post them for Jen. But otherwise, what we will be doing is sending out a survey. Celeste is a woman of words. She's amazing like that. And so she's putting together some great survey questions. So we'd like to send those out to you, because we get that everyone wants to collaborate and connect during this time, us just as much as all of you. We love these sessions just as much as you, so thank you. And so she's going to put something together that we'd like to send you, so that we can know, okay, what topic would you like us to focus on next time? So that every couple of weeks we can connect and we can discuss the things that are most relevant in our industry at this time. And I think that this is a time that we will look back and we will say, wow, if it wasn't for that time, I wouldn't be fill in the blank where I am now. So that's an exciting thing. And I loved Vanessa's post last time, where she posted and said, okay, please voice, what are you thankful about from this time? So thank you, everybody. We have loved our time with you. We'll be sending that out to you, posting it, and look forward to connecting with you again in a couple of weeks' time and staying connected.
Yes.
See you
It was great to see everyone. Yes, it was great to see everyone. Please feel free to connect with all of us on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and we'll see you again very, very soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for your participation.
Bye.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Nice to see you all. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
And we'll see you again next time. Bye, everyone.
Yes. Thanks, Jen. Bye-bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Celeste. Thanks, Jen.